So good morning and welcome to everyone. It looks like most of us made muster this morning. I was going to say you look all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but that's not the truth. But it is good to see you. It's been a long week, and we understand that, and I'm very appreciative on behalf of the team that you're here with us for the Council President Seminar. Let me go over a couple of things real quick. I want to talk to you about the agenda. So I'm going to ask my friend Peter Backus to come up here in a minute and provide the invocation and the pledge. I'll then have the pleasure of introducing General North and then General Kelly to provide us some remarks. And then we will go right into our senior leader panel. And we've got 8 seats up here. 8 seats are going to be filled with our senior leaders, and it's going to be a great 2-hour session with them. And then we're going to break for lunch at 11:30. Suzanne, if I say anything wrong, let me know. I think 11:30, and it's a buffet lunch. So folks will go out, grab their lunch, come back in, right? And we're going to complete lunch by 12:30. So if you can help me with that, because we got a pretty tight schedule here. We want to let folks get back on the road and get home. We need to be ready to go at 12:30. We're going to have our Harris Communications Award recognition ceremony starting right at 12:30. At 1 o'clock, I'll be back up here to give you a couple updates and to have some discussion with you about things we're working on your behalf. And then we're going to have at 1:30 a copyright infringement brief that's going to be very important for you to listen to and ask questions. Rachel Barth is going to do that for us. Then we'll take a break. And I ask that we make it it's a 15-minute break. Please make it 15 minutes. When you come back in, it's going to be a council president session where we're going to talk about chapter health. So as you come back in, I'm going to have Dina's here and Victoria, and we're going to kind of put folks at 3 different tables. Victoria will be at one, I'll be at one, Dina will be at one, and we're going to roll up our sleeves and talk about chapter health for about 2 hours. And then we'll be done for the day. So that's the plan. We'll go ahead and get started. I have the pleasure of introducing our national chaplain, Colonel Peter Backus, for the invocation and to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We should have put the steps over here.
No, it's okay. I don't need steps. If you please pray with me. Oh God, our Creator, we give you thanks for giving us another day to join together and to discuss the important things that we have to do for our chapters and councils and for the people we serve. We ask that you send your angels to guide those who will be traveling this day and tomorrow to return home to those who they love. Keep us always vigilant of our service to others. We ask your blessings upon those who are deployed throughout the world, especially those who are at harm's way this day. And we pray for their families who await for them. Grant them the peace and the patience as they await their loved ones' return. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks, sir. Be careful there. I think we have liability insurance, but just be careful. Joe. Okay, it's now my true pleasure to introduce General North, our chairman of the board. Sir.
Thanks, Tank. Good morning, everybody. I'm reminded that our work doesn't just start at 8 or 9 in the morning and end at 5 o'clock. Because last night I watched Chaplain Backus talk to a group of young men and women that are on their gap year from many different nations around the world, and his sermon lasted an hour and a half, and they were riveted. I'm also reminded by the old adage that if you are going to hoot with the owls, you cannot soar in the morning with the eagles. And I did an informal assessment in the reading room last night, and there were a lot of members out there doing informal work, and it was fantastic. So it is wonderful to be back, and I know at the end of the week, we're tired. But we have done fantastic work, and you know, this month is National Volunteer Month, and each of you volunteers so much of your time and effort, not only coming to hear and to be able to meet with our representatives and our senators, but the work that you do back at home. And I'd also, as I said last night, for those that were at dinner, you know, the staff, General Kelly and the staff do phenomenal work, and we can't thank them enough. You know, they represent each and every one of us here and literally abroad, and the things they do, they really punch well above their weight. As we go through the day, as Tank said, we're going to give out a lot of awards. The 2023 Levels of Excellence in the Harris Communication Awards, 168 and 223. That's really exceptional for the work that the councils and chapters do. We're also, and I'm going to in a minute announce our 2023 Colonel Steve Strobich Legislative Awards and the 2023 Spouse Liaison Excellent Awards. I know the award winners are not here, but you need to hear it and you need to go back and congratulate them. So the 2023 Colonel Steve Strobich Legislative Awards, the Council Legislative Chair is Captain Lynn Nash from the Maryland Council of Chapters and the Montgomery County Chapter. The Legislative Liaison is Colonel Thomas Waddell from the Grand Canyon Chapter. And the 2023 Surviving Spouse Liaison Award, Excellent Award is First Lieutenant John Glenn from the Greater St. Louis Chapter. And then at the chapter level, Linda Wolverton from the Luke Chapter. So let's give them a round of applause, although they're not here. We have a debate in the board members from time to time about the value of the councils and chapters and our members, because the numbers compared to the total numbers of our membership is small. But as I have the opportunity to watch the councils and chapters and the work you do, along with Jim Carmen, Tank, and the entire team, you know, the strength of a unit is at the field level. And so what we do need to do is we need to continue to recruit, we need to continue to inform, we need to continue to educate, and we need to continue to be involved at the council and chapter levels, because you are the strength of MOAA, and it's incredibly important. And so I'd like each of you, as you go through the day, and you'll see this when we talk with Jim and Tank and others, how important they are for you to keep the strength of what you do every day in the field to make sure that everyone knows how important you really are. But my push is also reach out and find someone in your local communities that you can enlist, you can get them to join, you can get them to participate, and that'll be very important. And later in the program today, we'll talk about that quite a bit. You know, last night, and I heard thousands of comments from everybody about how incredible Representative Houlihan was in her discussion. When you think about it, and as she was talking, I was reminded of a gentleman named Colonel Dave Stevens, who I met when I first met his son, Dave Stevens II, who was with me in ROTC at East Carolina University. His dad, Colonel Dave Stevens, was a B-17 pilot in World War II. Came back, used the GI Bill, became a lawyer, and lived in Greenville, North Carolina. His son, Dave Stevens II, was with me in school and became an Air Force pilot. His son, Dave Stevens III, I had the privilege of pinning wings on him when he graduated from pilot training. So 3 generations of military men who were committed to service of our nation. And with Colonel Dave Stevens, a B-17 pilot, he left me with a sense of what it means to give. Last night, you heard me say, as I stood Amanda up and said, you know, empty your pockets a little bit, give a little bit to our foundations. I'd like you to think about the gift that each of you gives by your service. Last night, Representative Houlihan said, do hard. Sometimes doing hard is really hard, but I'd like you to think about what Colonel Stevens left me, because it has stood with me over the years. And he called it his gifts, and for us to think about what gift you provide. And he said, the purpose of life is to discover your gifts. The meaning of life is to give those gifts in abundance. And the direction of life is to determine when, where, and for who that you give those gifts. Very simple, very profound. And so what I'd like to do is just thank you for giving the gifts of your service, your friendship, your relationships, your commitment, because it's the men and women of our military and our communities who bind us all together, and we should, A, never stop serving, and never forget to remind each one of us of the gifts that you provide to each other, to your communities, and for the relationships and those that we serve. So thank you very much. BK is going to come up and talk. It's going to be a great day, and I look forward to continuing the discussion with you throughout the day. Thanks. Oh, yeah. Let me get to it. Let's see. Okay, the 2023 Colonel Steve Stobridge Legislative Awards. The Council Legislative Chair is Captain Lynn Nash, U.S. Public Health Service retired from the Maryland Council of Chapters, Montgomery County Chapter. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and good morning to everybody as well. Tank asked me, and I thought what would be good was just to talk to you a little bit about where our focus is, and some of you have heard some of this, but we'll just reiterate where our focus is at the national level and what we're working on. So we have identified 6 what we call enduring challenges that we have to work on over the next couple of years. These aren't something that are easily conquered overnight, and that's why they're sort of our enduring challenges, and I'll sort of outline those quickly for you. And then we have, in specific years, targets and goals for those years. And so this year for 2024, there's 5 of those that we're specifically focusing on in 2024, and I want to highlight those for you as well. So first with the 6 enduring challenges. And the first one, and is intentionally so in the first position, is we are lucky enough as an association to be in a very strong financial position. It comes from a variety of places, but past leaders of some of you here, others who have served before us, have put the association in a good place. We have a great endowment that keeps us strong, and we have a number of revenue streams that come in, including our revenue stream from membership, revenue stream from our affinity businesses, and the royalties we get from insurance and a variety of other places. But I will tell you that over the last couple of years, a number of those revenue streams are on the decline, which means that we put on an annual basis more and more strain on our endowment. So we draw more money out of our investment account each year in order to keep the association going and cover our costs. So basically, if you're balancing your checkbook, we're spending more money than we have each year, right? So that's not good long term. And because we're strong financially, we're able to sustain that for a while, but we know long term, that's not good for the association. So our number one enduring challenge and our number one focus for us is to make sure that we can be financially sustainable and financially durable into the future, and so we're focused on that as our number one challenge. Number two, as part of that, one of the financial strains on our account is a very important part of our work are in our charities. Our scholarship fund is incredibly financially solvent and doing really well, but our foundation is fairly new. But the foundation does some really important work for us. As you guys have heard me say, we are an association of officers, but we're not an association about officers. The way we demonstrate that on a daily basis, in many cases, is through the foundation. All the programs that we run through the foundation that are available to so many parts of the military community at all ranks across all services come out of the foundation. But because of its sort of young age and the work that we do in there, the foundation is not yet up to its own level to be able to financially sustain itself in the same way that the scholarship fund is able to sustain itself. As a result, it puts a drain and strain, if you will, onto the big MOAA account. So the second enduring challenge for us is we've got to get over the next couple of years, we've got to get the MOAA foundation to be more sustainable and to be able to cover its costs in a way similar to what the scholarship fund does, which will not only make the foundation strong, which we want for many years to come, but it will also help us relieve some of the financial burden on the main MOAA account. Our number three enduring challenge for us has to do with membership, all of you. I don't think it'll be a surprise to any of you to hear what I'm about to say, but our overall membership has been increasing, and we think our overall membership will continue to be increasing, but our paid membership is decreasing. So we're dropping in paid members at the same time when we're increasing overall membership, meaning we're adding basic members into our fold. And so our challenge is, how do we create the value proposition? How do we create value so that we can bring more paid members into the association? That helps a little bit. It's not the answer completely to the financial woes we have. In fact, we would probably have to have three times as many paid members as we have today to really help us financially solve our overall financial picture. But you guys all know from what we did yesterday, numbers matter. And the numbers and the amount of work that we do from an advocacy perspective is built on membership. And so we have got to make sure from a value proposition we get to continue to increase and allow us to first level off, sort of arrest the decline, if you will, and then grow our paid membership. So that's our third enduring challenge. The number four enduring challenge has to do with this meeting with you guys. As the chairman already said and articulated, and I know you guys will talk about a lot today, we have a small percentage of our membership that belong to the chapter and council systems. However, look around the room, look at what we did yesterday, look at a variety of other things across the association in terms of engagement. It is this group of people that provides the most engagement and the most bang for the buck, if you will, in terms of what we do. So we want to be able to sustain that engagement and sustain our chapter and council system well into the future. And we have a variety of things that you'll talk about today to do that. Tank will have an opportunity to lead you guys through a variety of discussions, and you can certainly ask the panel. But we are focused in understanding that we have to make sure the part of our association that provides the most engagement, is the most active, the group of people I'm looking out who are looking back at me right now, is a sustainable model into the future. And so we're focused on that as one of our enduring challenges. The next one has to do with our brand and our engagement. We talk a lot about how do we make sure more people know about MOAA, more people understand what MOAA is, what MOAA is not, and how do we get engagement across that. And so there's a variety of efforts that are going on, and I'll talk about some of those when I talk about our 2024 priorities with you, that are designed to help us build our brand and build our engagement that should then hopefully trickle down to membership, council and chapter membership, revenue, all the other things that are in there. And the last one that is an enduring challenge for us has to do with how do we sustain our advocacy mission. You guys heard from Representative Houlihan last night, and you heard from our other senators and representatives on Tuesday night. That level of bipartisanship that we heard from them, which is really refreshing, is not universal. It becomes harder and harder for us to do our mission and find folks who do not use partisan politics, which used to be sort of sacrosanct in the military and veteran space, right? Everybody was together. That's not true anymore. So our job and what we do to be able to do our advocacy mission needs to be done in a careful manner, and so we work on that a lot to make sure that our voice as MOAA still carries forward. So those are the 6 enduring challenges that we have, from financial, making sure we get the foundation up, working on our overall membership, working on our council and chapter membership, working on our brand and our engagement, and sustaining our advocacy mission are our 6 enduring challenges that we have to work on over the next couple years. For 2024 specifically, I'll talk about the things where we're focused on that are related to those challenges. And the first one has to do with, and you probably have heard this term, a people conference that we are planning to run. And we've now set some dates, 28 to 30 October 2025. So in the fall of 2025, we plan to have a people conference that will touch on a variety of subjects related to the military community as we know it, both those currently serving, those transitioning, as well as those in the retired status, so through the whole spectrum of what we do at MOAA and all of our membership. And a variety of issues, whether those be how do you attract the next generation of talent into the military? How do you make sure the veteran experience is everything we want the veteran experience to be, from healthcare, through all the other things that we have to do? How do we make sure the families and all the family programs that Representative Houlihan talked about last night on child care and spouse employment and health care, all those things are taken care of. So this conference is intended to bring subject matter experts together. We want to bring in vendors and contractors who offer solutions and work in those spaces, whether they happen to be information technology and software companies or they happen to be healthcare companies. We want to bring them all together for a couple-day conference here in Washington, D.C., with the goal of helping on all those big enduring challenges. We think eventually, maybe not the first year, we're sort of shooting to do a break even, if you will, on the first year, but after that, as we grow, we think it's a revenue source for us as we can attract the right people and get the right sponsors. We think it will help us with the philanthropic efforts we have. People will know more about the foundation, the scholarship fund, and hopefully increase our awareness on fundraising. Add membership. As we brand MOAA, and MOAA is part of this people conference, our thought is that will help us attract new members to MOAA, attract in some cases, the currently serving force, which we're underrepresented in. We want to attract that younger population into our membership, and we believe the people conference will help us do that. So of those 6 enduring challenges, we think there's opportunities through this people conference to help in a variety of ways. And so in 2024, we are focusing, going from an idea we had in 2023 to execution. So we have members of the staff who are working full-time on how to execute that program and how to put it in place. And we'll try to keep you guys updated as we go. But we're excited about getting to October 2025. It's purposefully a long way out. It's 20 months out. But it's going to be a sprint for 20 months for us to get there. There's a lot of work to do, but that's the first thing we're focused on. The second thing we're focused on, I know you guys will talk more about this when the panel comes up here, is we have been working on our association management system, our AMS, our membership database for a while now, multiple years that's going on. Starting on March 31st, we turned off our existing system into a read-only system. So if any of you have gone out to the website or have tried to contact us, you've probably got a pop-up banner that says it's down, and if you need to take a transaction or do something with your information in the system, or a new person's trying to join, you have to call our member service center for right now. We'll be in that mode at least through the 22nd of April. It's coming up, and we'll maybe around that time frame, maybe not exactly on the 22nd of April, but right now we are migrating all the data from the old system into the new system. And that takes a while. It takes a couple weeks to do it, and that's why we've had this sort of downtime. But once we have that up and running, we will turn on the new system and begin to function in our new database system. So what's going to happen when that switch gets turned on? A couple things. First thing is right now we are tracking, as you can imagine, a big software change like this. If anybody's, you guys who work on your websites, there's always gremlins, there's always things out there, right? We're finding issues, and we're trying to address those issues each day, and so we're fixing things. Once we turn on, it's going to take us a few weeks, even a few months, to get stable and make sure we address anything that pops up. I tell the staff all the time, and I'll just tell you, I'm 100% sure about one thing. I'm 100% sure we didn't get it 100% right. Okay, it's very complicated, it's very difficult. So we're going to fix it. We have a really good plan in place. We have a team ready. We have our contractors on sort of speed dial to help us as we go through with those things. But we're going to run into some issues. We're going to have some things we didn't anticipate. It's part of doing business when you have a huge piece of software and a huge database like we have. And so we're going to address those. After we go through a couple months and get stable, then we will begin to make enhancements, slowly make enhancements to our system that will help us and help you in some cases with things like the committee module and things like we had before in the other database to make sure we can share more information. I will tell you the journey is probably something like this. When we turned off on 31 March, the capability we had probably went down a couple levels, okay, to get us to be able to stabilize and go forward. And then after we get stable, over time it's going to go up and it's going to surpass the capability we had in the old system. We'll have more capability and more ability to share, analyze, and use the data we have in the system. But it's going to take us some time to get to that point, right? It won't be instantly on day one when we turn the new database back on. Okay, so there's a little bit of journey going on there, and we will keep you informed as we go. But it's a really big project for us. It's a really big deal for us, and so that's our focus and one of the other focuses in 2024. Another focus in 2024 goes to the membership piece I told you about earlier. Is we have an active campaign that we are working on. Kathy Parton and her team in membership and marketing are the leads, but the entire association working on it together is we are actively trying to work on how do we increase the value and messaging to a younger cohort of people and attract more people to be paid members of MOAA. We call it, and this is not intended to be in any way offense, we are not just your parents' MOAA. That's the campaign we call it, okay? Because it is hard to reach the younger folks out there. It's hard to make them find value in what we do. We think there's great value. We've added things like leadership coaching and private one-on-one coaching services, a variety of things that we think could help officers in their current career as they're taking on responsibilities and doing things that would make their day-to-day life a little bit better and would help them find value in what we do at MOAA and all the things, our advocacy and everything else is out there. But that campaign is going to be active, really hard for us in 2024, and we're going to be focused on how do we get that cohort of people to find more value in MOAA and want to be part of our association. So that's the next piece we do. The other one is the foundation, as I mentioned. Not are we only trying to look at the long-term enduring challenge, but in 2024 specifically, we are trying some new things and trying to what we call fish out of some new ponds with the foundation. All of you, and we thank you for it, and other members of our military community are always very, very generous in taking care of our own. The military community as a whole does an unbelievable job of taking care of our own. But there are a lot of causes and a lot of places within the military community, whether it's the Wounded Warrior Project or Disabled American Veterans or our scholarship fund. There's lots of philanthropic causes out there, and the military community as a whole is generous, but those dollars get spread very thin as you go out. So we are trying to fish outside of the military community. We're trying to find other donors, people who may have a philanthropic interest in the military, in the veteran community, in the things that we do, to be able to be attracted to and come to MOAA. So we will be, for instance, we're holding a book launch and then a subsequent MOAA Foundation fundraising event in New York City with the invite folks. There's definitely MOAA members invited, board members invited, but we're really trying to attract other donors who would come to that event who are not normally in the military community. Come learn about us. Come learn about what we do and what our causes are so that we could potentially tap into some new sources of donations and new sources of philanthropic interest that we're trying to expand outside of just the military community. So that's really important for us. The last focus for 2024, the fifth one that we have is, I don't think I have to tell anybody in here, but it's an election year. It is going to be sporty for the government relations team and for us to navigate the waters over the next couple of months. So one of our focuses is how do we make sure that MOAA stays effective and we are postured well regardless of what the outcomes of elections are, regardless of what rhetoric goes on. MOAA's job is to be effective and to be bipartisan in our support. I can tell you, because I get a lot of them, the rest of the staff gets them too, our membership, rightly so, is not of one mind on these issues, right? And this is why we stay out of social issues, and this is why we stay out of politics, because all of us, and it's part of our rights as American citizens, have our individual opinions on those things. But when it comes to the paid earned benefits of our military members, we're of like mind inside MOAA, and that's where we stick and that's where we stay. But I can tell you that our membership periodically on both sides tries to pull us one way or the other in those places, and it is going to be a difficult 2024. But we are going to do our best to make sure that we stay focused and we stay right down the middle so that regardless of what happens throughout the year and regardless of what happens in November, we're postured to be just as successful tomorrow as we were today. Okay? So that's our 5 priorities for 2024. Those are our overall 6 enduring challenges. I'll stay up here for a second and see if there's any questions or anything before I turn it back to Tank and get the rest of the team up here.
Any questions?
Okay, well, thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you guys later this morning. Thanks. I'll go this way, thank you.
He never looks at notes. It's very annoying, isn't it? He just talks. It's a gift. Thank you, sir. So I'm going to now ask our Vice President's Senior Leader panel to please come on up and join me on the podium. We'll get you seated in the right place. While they're doing that, there's a couple admin notes I should have mentioned in the beginning. One is please check your cell phones, either vibrate or off. I guarantee you your ringtone is not as cool as you think it is, and we're going to laugh at you if it goes off. So please check your phones. When it comes to the Q&A session, we're going to have some folks that have wireless mics that if you raise your hand, they'll come around and they'll find you. If you would, when it comes to that part, if you would let us know who you are and who you're representing, council or chapter, and then who your question is directed to, and we'll take care of that. I also want to recognize my team here. We've got 5 folks that work very hard for all of you every day. And as General Kelly reminds me all the time, we are all here for you. All 85 folks that work at MOAA are here for you and work on your behalf. But I do want to recognize my team. And Dina, you're not going to love this. Nobody is. But Dina, if you could just stand up and let everybody see you. You're here. Victoria Twine. Victoria, where are you at? Everybody knows she walked out. Of course she did. Yeah. All right. Everybody knows Victoria. We don't have to point her out. Faria, stand up and let everybody see you. And Joey. Where's Joey? There he is in the back. Okay. Those names are familiar to you because they take care of a lot of work for you. And I wanted to just make sure you see them, you know that they're here, and part of this day is that you get an opportunity to talk to them about anything you want to talk about. I also want to thank, certainly I'm going to thank here in a minute, a couple of times, all the senior leaders that we have up here, but we also have folks here. I see Regina in the back. I see Jim O'Brien back there. I see Blair Drake back there. I see Renee Campos. These are folks that are not up here on this panel, but they're here because they're supporting you. And if you've got a question or a concern, anything you want to talk about with these great leaders, please take the time to do that during the day. Thank you all for being here. Okay, I think we're good. Please be seated. I think we're in the right order. We'll find out in a minute. So it is a real pleasure to introduce our senior leader panel. We ask these folks to do this every time we meet, whether it's a workshop or a virtual workshop. When we get the chance to talk to council presidents, we only get to get you guys together in person like this one time a year. But these folks are always ready, always very anxious to spend some time with us, to talk about the things that are important in their lanes, and then to take your questions. So I'm very, very honored to have all these folks standing up here or sitting on the podium. I got to stand because I'm the moderator. And, you know, these guys all had water put in front of them. I had to get my own water. So I have to stand, I have to get my own water. But that's all part of being the moderator. I'm good with it. Okay. So but I'm going to introduce each of our panelists. They're going to have 5 to 7 minutes. Oh, I forgot my bat. I got to get my bat.
I got it.
All right, sir.
He doesn't have any water, but he carries a big stick.
Thanks, sir. So this is how we stay on time. I'm going to put that right there. So 5 to 7 minutes or so of prepared remarks from all of our panelists. And then we're going to get into what hopefully will be about an hour of Q&A. And I would urge you to please make use of your time, our time with these leaders, and ask the questions that are on your mind. The answers are here. They're all here. So please take advantage of that. So I'm going to start by introducing Major General Joe Lynch, United States Air Force retired. He's our General Counsel and Board Secretary. Sitting next to General Lynch is Captain Jim Carmen, United States Navy retired, our Vice President, Council Chapter, and Member Support. Next to Jim is Colonel Dan Mary, United States Air Force retired, Vice President, Government Relations. Kathy Parton, Vice President, Membership and Marketing. Amanda Centers, Vice President, Development. Gail Joyce, MOAA National Board Member, Chair of Surviving Spouse Advisory Council. Peter Magnuson, Vice President of Communications. And Sarah Ferris, our Vice President and Chief Information Officer. So again, great panel here assembled for you. We'll start with our prepared remarks. General Lynch, sir, I'll let you start, please.
Thank you, Tank. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure to get back together with our council and chapter leadership across MOAA. It's a real honor to be on this panel and to share the stage with these very distinguished individuals that I share the mission with right now. I want to thank all of you who've come up to me during the breaks and at different times just to offer some suggestions or to ask questions. It kind of helps me focus on what's really important and what's going on out in the field. That's information that's absolutely vital to us all across this panel up here, and I appreciate your taking the time to talk to us about that. Today I'm going to focus on just a couple of issues for a number of reasons. One is there's a lot of issues I could talk about, but Tank is pretty tough about this stuff, and I have to get done within my time period, so I'm going to do that. As all of you know, we're heading into a national election season. We have a presidential election coming up. Every member of Congress is up for re-election. That's the House of Representatives. And 1/3 of the Senate is up for election again. So there's a real temptation and a real inclination to kind of help our membership focus on what's really important in these in this election season. But one thing that's overridingly important that we all have an obligation to adhere to is that we can't engage in partisan political activities as members, as MOAA officers and as representatives of MOAA. So what does that mean? Well, of course, we engage in political activities all the time. Part of MOAA's mission is to lobby on Capitol Hill and in the state capitals to protect and preserve the earned benefits of the military community. That's political activity, and we do that all the time. That's part of our mission. But there's a difference between political activity and partisan political activity. Partisan political activity is what's prohibited. And partisan political activity is, as MOAA, expressing a preference or opposition to any named candidate for public office or to any political party, one side or the other. That's what we cannot do. Now, as individuals, you can all have your own individual beliefs and preferences in those areas. That's not prohibited. You can express your individual beliefs and preferences in partisan issues as well, but you have to do it as an individual and not in a way that might cause people to think you're speaking for MOAA or you're speaking for your chapter. So you have to be very, very careful of that. I would say for the most part, we're used to that. We've lived under Hatch Act constraints for our entire military careers, so we kind of get that. Well, just because you're no longer on active duty doesn't mean that those restrictions disappear. They still apply because as tax-exempt organizations, we have to comply with the law and we have to be nonpartisan. So that means you can't directly or indirectly support a particular political candidate by name or a particular political party. You can't do it directly. That is, you can't actually, at your MOAA meeting, put a banner up in front of your chapter that says who you support or who you think MOAA should support. You can't do that. But you also can't do it indirectly. And so we over the years, we've seen this kind of evolve and develop and different things happen. A couple of years ago, in the middle of a very heated political campaign, somebody sent me a copy of their MOAA chapter newsletter, and the president's column was essentially the talking points of one of the political parties that was engaged in the campaign. That's indirect, but you can't do it. If you're a chapter president, if you're the editor of a newsletter, you can't use your position in MOAA to advocate for a partisan position on one side or the other. And I think you have to be very careful and make sure that you do that. You can have your own individual viewpoints, but when you express them, they have to be your individual viewpoints. And it's kind of obvious, I think, you can't get up as a chapter president and at a chapter luncheon get up and say, okay, I'm going to take a minute here to talk to you about my own personal beliefs about who ought to be the next president. You can't do that because they're there as in a MOAA function. You just can't hijack a MOAA function and say, you gotta have to listen to my personal beliefs. So I ask all of you to be very conscious of that in the political season that we're going into. And partisan politics are not bad. They're not anti-democratic. They're very democratic. They're very important. But we cannot use MOAA or MOAA chapters and MOAA organizations to support one political party or one candidate over another. One of the issues that comes up from time to time is, and I'll get phone calls about this, is, well, we have, in my district, we have a veteran running for office against a non-veteran, and we want to support veterans, and having veterans in Congress. So we want to come out and support the veteran. Well, yeah, you can take a position, for example, we think there ought to be more veterans in Congress. I think probably a lot of us agree with that position. But that doesn't mean we can state by name or by personal identity one candidate for office over another, even if it's like a veteran and we agree with their position. No, we can't do that. We have to be neutral on the partisan political side. So please keep that in mind and make sure that you follow those rules and you adhere to them. Tank and his people at the MOAA National Office and Council and Chapters, they know the rules. They're very familiar with them. If you have a question, you can always give me a call. But if you don't want to give me a call and put your chapter on report to the General Counsel, you can always call Tank and his staff and Victoria and their folks can give you some really, really good guidance on that. So that's point number one. The second point I want to address very briefly, and I get to do it very briefly because Pete Magnuson and Rachel Barth are going to talk about this in a minute, is beware of copyright violations. Beware of copyright violations. If you're publishing a chapter newsletter and you want to have a really cool photograph as part of your chapter newsletter, don't just go hunting around on the internet until you find something that you think fits your story, copy it and plug it in there and think that's the end of it. It's not. There's a relatively few sources of photographs and images that are in the public domain. Rachel and Pete will talk about where you can find those in just a minute. But don't just think because it's on the internet, you can copy it and post it in your newsletter. I will tell you that there are law firms out there in the country that represent the news media, they represent the Associated Press, they represent photographers who do this for a living, and they have search mechanisms that allow them to search the internet to find if one of their images is being used by somebody without their authority. And if it is, they've got it down to where it's a pretty simple process for them to send you a demand letter and ask you to pay what they normally charge to have that photograph, to license that photograph for your use. And at the end of the day, you don't have to intentionally violate the copyright law. You can unintentionally, out of ignorance, violate the copyright law, and the damages are the same. And there is a minimum of $750. I've never seen them just take $750 because they almost all have a schedule of fees that they charge and that they charge other people to license the use of their photographs, and that's what they're going to recover, plus they're going to recover attorney fees. So it's very easy for just, a photograph being improperly used in your newsletter to cost several $1,000s. And if, chapters and councils do not have deep pockets. So it's very likely that if you get one of these copyright violations and it's enforced, it could easily put your chapter out of business. So keep that in mind. Be very, very careful. Listen to what Peter and Rachel have to say today because they really know what they're talking about, and be very, very careful about the use of photographs and other images that you might find on the internet. Now, I have let my time expire. I've got this big club sitting next to me, so I'm going to wrap things up. But I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank those of you who came up to me during the breaks and last night to kind of share your concerns and ask some questions. I'm more than happy to talk to you anytime I can. I wish I could do this more often because I get so much energy from the crowd like this, but there's only so much time that we can spend, dealing face-to-face across the, a 360,000 member organization. But thank you very much for being there. Thank you for your leadership in MOAA, and thank you for your support of the military community.
Thank
Jim,
you, sir.
over to
Jim
you.
Carmen, sir.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for taking time out of busy schedules to spend this week with us in Washington, D.C., working on the association's legislative advocacy agenda. There's so many familiar faces in the audience. It's good to see many of you again. For those of you who are here for the first time, my journey to my current role began with 25 years in naval aviation. I worked for a bit in the airline business after leaving active duty, and then had a chance to join the association about 12 years ago, now serving as Vice President for Member Support and Council and Chapter Affairs. There are about 25 people that I'm privileged to work with, and I'll tell you a little bit about what their roles are in the association. The organization that you have the most contact with is probably our Member Service Center. Write this down, 800-234-MOAA, 800-234-MOAA. This group of young people are happy to chat with you often about problems that you're having, information you need, connections that you need to help you be a more effective volunteer leader. The model that works well for us is to take a team of recent college graduates, currently 7 members on that team. Many of them are military juniors, so they understand the culture, they understand our backgrounds, and they have direct connections to all the subject matter experts on the staff and can get you the information you need in a very expeditious manner. They process about 1,000 inquiries every week from our membership via phone and email and text chat. Most of those inquiries come via telephone. We all like to be able to pick up the phone and call someone. 800-234-MOAA. We also have a transition center operation that is designed to support a cohort where we have great success in recruiting. This is the 40 to 60-year-old cohort that, when you think about it, is probably going through about 3 life transitions. Professional transitions as our military service concludes and we move on to what's next. Personal transitions as children spin out of the nest and go off to college and other things. And unfortunately, some of us have to go through some health transitions. But we have 2 accredited financial counselors and 4 very experienced career management consultants who give one-on-one guidance to our members every year. Probably about 2,000 of our members reach out every year for help navigating these personal and professional transitions. This group of individuals also provides support for retired activity events at many of the major bases around the country. We will be in Alameda, California shortly, and Orlando, Florida, maybe at the end of the month. And we also provide a very robust webinar schedule that addresses a number of relevant topics for our membership. There was a Space A travel webinar, how to make the most of your Space A travel, about 10 days ago, and I think 1,500 of our members tuned in to listen to the details of arranging Space A travel. So don't hesitate to reach out to this transition center to talk about matters that might affect your personal finance or your professional growth in your post-military careers. My team also includes the Council and Chapter Affairs team under Tank's leadership. They were introduced earlier this morning. I know many of you have deep relationships with them, and they're standing by every day to help you in your role as a volunteer leader. Beyond these focus areas, my team also works with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation in support of the military caregiver community. Ladies and gentlemen, there are about 5.5 million military caregivers, and this is a very, very hard job. And so our caregiver guide, focused on the legal and the financial aspects of military caregiving, is viewable at moa.org/caregiver. moa.org/caregiver, and there are probably some people in your chapters who could benefit from that online resource. My group is also responsible for membership and governance events that we do throughout the year. Suzanne Walker was introduced last night from the podium as the person who was pulling together a million details to support this week in Washington, D.C. We're grateful for her work. Suzanne also advises the Surviving Spouse Program. Surviving spouses are 13% of our membership. They number about 45,000 members, and my friend Gail Joyce will have more to say in a few moments about the Surviving Spouse Program. And finally, 2 members of the team are spending a significant amount of their time supporting the Moonshot Initiative, the People Conference, scheduled for October 2025 that General Kelly mentioned in his remarks. So with that, I'll pause, pass the microphone to my friend Dan Mary, and be standing by for your questions.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. I think you've all heard enough about me a couple of times, thanks to the boss. Yes, I'm retiring, and I want to change the script a little bit and tell you how I got here. So the value of thank you. I was on Facebook, and there were a bunch of people talking about pay and benefits and some of the problems at MOAA. I simply chimed in. I said, it's great to see people working these issues. As a former chief of compensation for the Air Force, I was drawn into this discussion that was going on, and I simply said, thank you, MOAA. People like you have the guts to do what needs to be done, and you have the access that we don't have when we're on active duty. So we're really appreciative of what you do. Thank you very much. I come back from a cruise. There's a phone call waiting from me from Linda Speed. She was the HR lady at the time. She said, hey, we're looking for somebody to work in the government relations team. Might you consider that if you're going to be retiring soon? Oddly, I was about retiring soon. And so one thing led to another, and Steve Strobridge and I and DT, our former CEO, we had a 3-hour lunch, and that's usually a good sign if your lunch goes to 3 hours. I was hired in March. I retired in August, and I went straight to MOAA. I skipped terminal leave. All my friends said I was an idiot. My wife was one of them who said that. But you know what, looking back, I wouldn't change it because I needed the time with Steve Strobridge because he was so deep in all these issues, and I didn't want to miss an opportunity to spend time with him. So every day I got to spend with him was beneficial. Also gave me a better chance to learn about the team and everything else going on. So that's how I got here. And I want to tell you, and I've talked about our team before, and I want to make our advocacy team get a lot of appreciation. Their star power comes from them. On any given day, Allison, Brendan, Renee, Ingrid, Karen, Corey, Jen, Mark, any of them can be on the top of the list any of those days. You know, when Karen did her training and Mark did her training, you can see how much they know and how much they're passionate about this work. I can also let you know, someone made the comment before, sometimes the staffers are the ones you really want to talk to. Because the principal's going to shake your hands, nod head north and south, get a picture. But the people who do the work are the staffers. I can tell you this, as most people don't know this, when there's bills being discussed or written or in the middle of being shaped, people call our team. If it's a caregiver issue, Renee is on everyone's speed dial. If it's got anything to do with concurrent receipt, they'll call Paul, who's not on our team, but he'll also call Mark if it's legislation. These people call us. Our folks, I see people walking out of my office in a suit. Where are you going now? I'm going on the Hill. Two staffers want me to review this legislation, so I'm going to work with it. So we've contributed a lot along the way. It's not just waiting to go to, excuse me, it's not just waiting to go to the Hill and ask for stuff. So we get to be in the middle of everything, and so it's really important that you all understand that we have that kind of gravitas when it comes to going to Capitol Hill. Our experiences and your experiences will help us keep the fuel in the advocacy tank, and it will also make sure that we evolve. Because the general said, and everyone else knows in this room, you can't go forward and you can't change if you stay exactly the way you are. You've got to find the right avenues that we need to be looking into. We need to adjust where we can. We need to find the prioritization, and we need another look at how we do advocacy. And we can have these kinds of events. They might look different in the future, but at the end of the day, we need to have you on the Hill. We need to be on the Hill. Everybody needs to know what's going on in Washington, D.C. One of the things I also want to just point out, to give all of you a round of applause here in a second. But you know, an advocate is a noun. People will say, I'm an advocate. Advocate is a verb. Advocating is a gerund. And if there's any teachers in here, they're going to say, hey, I like someone use terminology like that. But that's the key, advocating. Be out there, you go do it. And you have to do it to make a difference. The fact that you are one doesn't matter until you go do something. So I want to give you all a round of applause for the other last couple of days. Yeah. We have a big footprint. We're one of the most effective VSO, MSO organizations in the nation. We are the largest MSO in the nation. We are entwined with the military coalition. All of us have a role and many leadership roles throughout the military coalition, and we are partners with many, many other people. We are the #1 unit when it comes to who's got the most advocacy power and the most prowess and the most experience. It's going to be us. So I'm proud to be a part of that, and thank you for your attention, and I'm going to turn the mic over to my good friend, Kathy. You guys, and she's got her own.
Thanks, Dan.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for spending your time with us, and thank you for letting me talk about something I'm very passionate about, and that's membership and marketing. I've been at the association now for about 15 years. I came to MOAA from a nonprofit association background. And one thing that's always been true at every organization I've worked at is that membership is a top priority that takes everybody's involvement. Here at MOAA, we have 11 professionals on the membership and marketing team, but I always like to say that membership is everybody's job. That's all 84 staff members, that's all the board members, that's all our volunteer leaders, including you. It takes everybody's work together to be successful. This morning, I want to touch on 3 areas that we are laser focused on every single day. The first is brand awareness. I think we've all probably been in conversations where people don't know what MOAA is, who MOAA is, what we do. So we've shifted our marketing strategy a little bit so we can focus on brand awareness, getting the word out about who we are. So when that decision or that invitation to join comes, people already know about us. They don't have to do all that homework to make that join decision. To get the word out, it's really important that we are where officers and their families are. That's both in person and online. We have a robust outreach program that includes a variety of activities like trade shows, award ceremonies, and activities like the Army 10-miler. Last year, we were fortunate to introduce a brand new booth for our trade shows. We now have technology, we have lights, we have things that can compete with some of those high-tech vendors out on the trade show floors. That gives us the opportunity to stand out when people are walking by and have these meaningful conversations about what MOAA is all about. And the good news is that our approach seems to be working. Since we introduced the trade show, or the new booth at the trade shows, our joins are up by 60%. So hopefully that continues as we move forward. To get the word out, we also have a very robust digital advertising program. So we're out there online where we think officers and their families are. And if we're doing our jobs right, none of you are seeing these ads because you're already members, and we want to make the most efficient use of our advertising dollars. We're also very enthusiastic about some of the relationships that we have with the academies right now. What started as a tailgate sponsorship for West Point has grown into all the major academies. And we're getting involved in activities where we can showcase MOAA's strong suits, transition, advocacy, surviving spouse issues. So we're still doing some of the fun things, the unexpected places to see MOAA, like at football tailgates, outside the stadium, and just interacting with people, but we're also getting into those meaningful conversations. And as we move forward, we're really trying to tie a direct link to membership with all these partnerships. And so far, the response from the Academy Alumni Associations has been very strong. The second area that we're focused on is probably job #1 is that paid membership level. You heard General Kelly talk about how we're growing in overall membership. That's really boosted by basic membership. Paid membership is trending down. Those are our premium and life categories. We're doing a pretty good job at retaining people. We're at about 78% for annual premium members who renew every year. We have a little bit of work to do there, but our biggest challenges really are bringing in brand-new premium members and upgrading basics into the paid levels. Today, the majority of our new paid members come from that basic category. And I think most of you probably know basic membership is our free electronic membership, really intended for the younger officer to come in with, low barrier to access, name, rank, status, and email address. And that gives us the opportunity to keep talking with them. Once they get into our fold, we can communicate with them regularly to engage, cultivate, educate, and then ultimately upgrade them to premium or life membership. We have a very heavy focus on digital advertising for premium and life membership, as well as we're still doing tried and true direct mail. It still brings in paid members for us. We're really excited about this campaign for younger officers that General Kelly talked about. This is another campaign where we want to be where the officers and their families are, and we're really looking at some new venues for that, including in-game advertising. We know a lot of our officers are gamers, so let's get the MOAA brand out there and see what traction we can make. The final area I want to touch on is relevancy. We have members ranging in age from 22 to 102, and everybody needs a personalized message. It's not optional in today's world, and that becomes challenging. To that end, we've developed a series of personas, which are available for your access on our Chapter and Leaders Council website, where you can see where we've broken down our membership into, I think, 7 personas, and we talk about what value proposition we have for them, what we might know about this group, and potential messaging. So we use this as a framework for all of our marketing campaigns, our member experiences, but it's something that you can take a look at and adjust it to align with your chapter membership value, and we can be in sync on that messaging. We also need to be concerned about that value proposition that we're bringing forward. So these different personas have different needs. At the national level, we have a team focused on looking at different partnerships and bringing new opportunities to our membership. But it's also cuts across all areas of the association. We are all focused on that value proposition and how we can differentiate those membership categories so it makes sense to somebody why they should go from basic to premium to life. I encourage you to keep an eye on TMN and on the website. That's where we'll make the big announcements about these new partnerships or value propositions that we have. There might be something of interest to you, but it's always important to share that information with your chapter members as well. The more engaged they are, the more likely they are to stick around. So in closing, I would like to recognize all the hard work that you do. What you're doing out in the field makes my job easier. I know membership is a big job, and I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thanks, Kathy. Amanda.
Hello, everybody. My name is Amanda Centers. I have been with the organization over 15 years. I came to MOAA right out of elementary school, and it's been a joy ever since. I have the benefit and the pleasure of running our 2 501c3 charities, the MOAA Scholarship Fund and the MOAA Foundation. I hope you have all heard of our charities. If not, I'm just going to give you a little brief on them and give you some updates. So the MOAA Scholarship Fund has been around since the 40s, so a very long time. It's healthy, it's successful. We do some really great things for military children. We provide interest-free loans as well as grants to those pursuing their undergraduate degree, and that, pardon me, and that's actually open to everybody, not just officer children. You could be active duty. All active duty children are eligible to participate. retired enlisted children as well, and of course, officer children. The only group not eligible are former enlisted children. Last year we had about 780 students in the program receiving funds. Really happy to say this year we had a lot of applications. We're about to approve about over 1,300 children into the program. And this week the board just approved an additional $1 million in grants to give these children. So we're budgeting $4 million in grants. Now we're going to be giving out $5 million, and on top of that, over close to $9 million in the interest-free loans. So a really successful year. We're going to be able to help a lot of students. So something that we're very, very proud of. The MOAA Foundation is our newer charity, and we're doing some amazing work there, really focusing on preventing veterans in the military community from crisis, and also when they're in crisis, providing some assistance. And what does that look like? We provide finance and benefits education, career professional development, all the things and tools that you might need to put yourself in a good position so if you do face a crisis, you're prepared and you can handle it. But for those who actually end up in a crisis situation, we do have a crisis relief program, and I hope you all have heard of that too, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So the crisis relief program, which you can in your communities help facilitate those grants. We give out $500 to $1,000 to those facing a crisis, and we define a crisis as something that is at no fault of their own. So if a tornado comes and rips their roof off, of course that qualifies. If they bought a Tesla and can't afford their car payment, that's not our issue. So it's a great program, and we're trying to grow that. But as a chapter member and within your chapters, if something happens in your community, please tell people about this. We have funding to help folks. We want to get that money out there. We want to get it to the people who deserve it. And again, it's open to everyone. 80% of the people we help are enlisted, and most of them junior enlisted with multiple dependents. Their average household income is below $40,000. So as you can imagine, it's challenging in those situations to have a family and with limited income, and if something like that happens, it can be completely paralyzing. So it's a great program, and I hope you'll spread the word to those in your community. The other program that we run through the foundation that I think would be of interest to you all is our community outreach grant program. If you've heard of this program, can you raise your hand? Oh, that's great. Okay. So we provide grants to you all in your communities to do carry the good work through that we can't do on the national level. So if you're doing community work for veterans in the military community, you can apply for a grant. The grant opens at the end of the year. We just approved this last set of awardees. We're going to be giving 49 chapters grants this year, which is the most we've ever given. We gave out 9 the first year that we did this, so we're really excited. Word is spreading. It's a great opportunity for you to be engaged within your community. We're excited to fund those efforts. I've heard anecdotally that it's also a good recruitment opportunity for you to meet other people who are doing good work in your local areas. So I encourage you to get involved in that and apply for a grant next year. We're continuing to fundraise. We want to give everyone as much money as possible. Of course, there's a fundraising component to that, but please consider applying next year if you haven't already applied for one this year. And I will end my remarks by saying thank you to those who have donated. We can't do this without you. We're doing some great things. Thank you for giving, and those who haven't, we hope you'll consider giving to us. We hope you'll I'm happy to talk to you about our programs, but I think you'll find them to be valuable and worthwhile, and then I'll pass it to Gail.
Thanks, Amanda. Gail.
Glasses. Hi, I want to thank everyone for attending this really special session today so that you can maybe discover new ways to make your chapters and your councils shine, to get some new ideas, maybe to renew some old friendships, and maybe even make some new friends. You know, as you heard, I'm a member of the MOAA board as the surviving spouse representative on that board. And a little background, and by the way, I'm also a volunteer. A little background, in 2014, a seat was created on the board of directors to be filled by a surviving spouse. This is important because, as you heard from Jim, we represent 13% of the MOAA membership. Members. And I have heard that we are the second largest group of members in MOAA second only to the Army, who has more. So what we do is very important, and so who we are. A new surviving spouse remarked to me on a call recently that learning how to be a surviving spouse was harder than running a very large company, which she had done. But you know what? MOAA is prepared to provide the tools to help make being a survivor just a little bit easier. You know, as you've heard from our expert panelists today, that there are many ways that MOAA can help you manage and grow your chapters and help your members who are members of your council as well. You know, the goal of our Surviving Spouse Advisory Council is to provide the tools that your council and chapter members need, and how you can help provide vital information in dealing with some of the important and life-changing issues. How you can help spouses and your survivors negotiate the myriad details that must be dealt with in a very timely and fast manner. You know, I became a surviving spouse when my husband, Lieutenant Colonel Larry E. Joyce, Army, Infantry, Aviator, Public Affairs Officer, died in 1999 from leukemia, a disease that was caused by his exposure to Agent Orange during his 2 tours in Vietnam. And being a member of the MOAA family has helped me navigate many of these issues. And it all starts with the Surviving Spouse Advisory Council, also known as SAC. SAC was created in 2004 to serve as the principal advisor and make recommendations to the President and MOAA leadership on MOAA policies and advocacy issues, personal affairs, and support pertaining to spouses and surviving spouses. Our council is made up of 6 members. We represent different states, we represent different services, and we all come from different backgrounds. And it is our job, the council, to make things better and easier for all surviving spouses. But we can't do these things all by ourselves. We need help from you to make this work and to ensure that surviving spouses are fully involved and are accepted as full-scale members of MOAA. You know, it's our job to educate, to encourage, and to engage each of you in this really important job. Our first job is to educate. I emphasize this because we still have members and chapters across the United States who do not recognize surviving spouses as MOAA members, and they still insist on calling us auxiliary members. However, we know that throughout the MOAA system, in all of the chapters, we have surviving spouses serving as presidents, secretaries, treasurers, newsletter editors, program directors, managing community programs. And often we even find some spouses that are also filling these roles. And we want to encourage you to help us by becoming a reliable conduit of information that we provide to your community. And you can do this by having a surviving spouse liaison. How many of you, your chapters or councils, have surviving spouse liaisons? Okay, good. That's not everybody, and we hope to get 100%. And you know what? Anybody can be a surviving spouse liaison. It does not have to be a surviving spouse. It can be a spouse, or it can be one of your military members. And some of our best surviving spouse liaison people have been the military member of your chapter. It just needs someone who is passionate about this interest, who can pass on the information and provide support and assistance when and where it is needed. And we want to keep our members engaged by encouraging each of you to be a part of our advocacy efforts. Spouses and surviving spouses make excellent advocates for MOAA, especially on issues that involve personnel and family affairs, such as the SBP DIC, which we were responsible for getting passed in 2019, after, by the way, a 40-year-long battle. You know, the charge to make this happen was led by MOAA battalions of surviving spouses, their families, and their friends across the United States. And if you'll check on page 26 of your most recent April MOM issue, there is a whole page dedicated to 3 special issues that will impact spouses and surviving spouses, and you need to get educated on that so that you can encourage your elected representatives to support those issues. You know, as an active chapter member, I know firsthand that one of the most pressing problems for your councils and for your chapters is leadership. and you all can help alleviate that problem. When you recruit surviving spouses to join National MOAA or to join your local chapters, please let them know how much you need them and how they can help you make your chapter successful. And encourage the people and your members to assign these surviving spouses to meaningful jobs and to do this at the council level as well. You know, I travel a lot and I talk to MOAA chapters and retirement communities, surviving spouses and other military-related groups about MOAA and spouse and surviving spouse issues. And during these calls and visits, I learn a lot. And one thing that I have learned is we really need your help getting out information to the members of your chapters and their spouses about what they can do to be better prepared when the inevitable happens. You know, death is never a pleasant subject to talk about, but it's so important that your members are encouraged to have this conversation with their spouses and with their children as well. You know, while MOAA can provide a lot of help in this area, I know you know that the first step has to be taken by the couple themselves. And we also provide a lot of information along this same topic through our regional leadership training programs each year. You know, preparing to be a survivor is one of the major topics of these training sessions, so that the liaisons and the people that attend these training sessions can then take that information back to your local chapters and to your local membership. In addition, there's also some very helpful MOAA publications about these topics, and in addition, there are some really great webinars as well. You know, MOAA leadership can also provide help, but you know, as I said earlier, the couple must be willing to take those first steps together. And we highly recommend that as council presidents, you can make it a point to encourage your chapters and your chapter members to have a presentation on this subject at least once every year, and hopefully twice a year, because I can guarantee you that people do not remember this information. Sometimes they don't remember it long enough to even get started. Another important information source that you will find helpful with some great ideas is our Surviving Spouse virtual chapter. We meet once a month virtually on the third Tuesday of every month. All surviving spouses and surviving spouse liaisons can be a member of this. The only other requirement is that they have to be a member of MOAA, but there are no dues. And it is a great way to share information and to learn new things. Our next meeting is Tuesday, April the 24th at 5 o'clock. We encourage all eligible surviving spouses to join this group. We now have about 250 members, which come from the majority of our states, and we always get great positive reaction after each one of our meetings. There are no dues, as I said, and you must be a MOAA member. The bottom line for SAC, we want to encourage, educate, and engage both spouses and surviving spouses to fully participate in and support MOAA goals. We encourage all MOAA members to visit the MOAA website often, to join the Legislative Advocacy Center, to read the MOAA newsletters, and the magazine, and participate in all the special activities that we offer. All things that will help your members be better prepared for the inevitable. By the way, spouses are always invited to join our training sessions as well, and I think they will find them to be very informative and eye-opening as well. You know, I look forward to getting to know each of you, and I hope you have a great year this year in helping your chapters and councils grow. And if you need anything from me, please give me a call. I thank you for your time and attention, and to never stop serving. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. By the way, I have several folks out trying to track down this bass player. I don't know if you can hear this. And I apologize for that, but we're trying to figure that out. But we'll just press ahead. Pete.
Yeah, I heard that bass too, and I thought my next move was to beatbox with this microphone, but I'll stop. My name is Pete Magnuson. I'm the Vice President of Communications, and this morning, clearly, I'm serving in the role of thorn between roses. So I hope to make this short and quick. I'm really excited. This is my first AIA, so I'm really jazzed to be up here, and I'm jazzed for a few reasons. One, My degree is in journalism, and I think most journalists have like pet peeves when it comes to language and the use of language, and one of mine is the use of the word myriad. So I was super excited because Gail, sitting right next to me, correctly used the word myriad in her remarks, and I was like super happy. The other reason I'm jazzed is just, yeah, right, really? That's exciting. The other reason I'm jazzed, and to kind of dovetail on what General North said, was to see so many Eagles here this morning. I think you all had really long days yesterday, and to get up early and to listen to us kind of drone on about what we do, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I serve as the Vice President of Communications here, and I say that I am privileged to lead an incredible team of individuals who are focused on getting your stories and messages out there. Like a lot of staff this week, a lot of stuff happened behind the scenes that you probably aren't aware of in order to get the message out and to share what happened yesterday. Even this morning, there was an article in the newsletter, if you've seen it and got it, already about what we've done. That's a testament to the team that's behind the scenes, capturing those images, writing those stories, and getting those out through our channel. So I appreciate each and every one of them. A couple things that I want to share this morning, and again, Gail did most of my brief at touting all the communication activities that we do, but the three main areas that we focus on are the magazine, the newsletter, and the social media side. Coming up in the May issue of the magazine, you're going to see a little bit of a different look. Our team has spent the last year looking at readership surveys, looking at what is being reviewed and read online, and made some changes to the newsletter. A lot of that will be design. We're moving a lot of the material for the organization to more the front of the magazine, and we've repurposed some of the other existing content. One of the key things that we've accomplished in doing this, which I'm going to ask for your help as we go forward with this, is to infuse more chapter and council content throughout the magazine. Typically in the past, we've focused on one issue. I believe it was the October issue of the magazine, focused solely on chapters and councils. We've kind of felt that we did a disservice to councils and chapters at focusing just in one area. So we made the decision to kind of infuse that throughout the year. And this is where we need your help. Like, we need your stories, we need your ideas, we need your contacts and information. So if you have anything that you think may be of interest, please send it to us and we'll take a look at it. I think in order to get those stories out, we need your help. And you guys have already done some of that work. I think yesterday we asked for all your photos. We got a ton of stuff in at the MOAA Images email. So we know you're doing it. We just need to know about it. So please share those stories. On the social media side, so if you are on social media, and I was going to say I don't care what platform, but we do care what platform because some of them we don't use. But if you're on social media, please make sure you are following all of MOAA's social media channels, both on a personal level with your own social media, but also on your chapters, because I know some of your chapters and councils have their own social media. So make sure that you're following us. That way we can also see what's going on in your area, and we can amplify that for you. One of the most recent things that we did is we launched a LinkedIn newsletter. So if you're on LinkedIn, hopefully you've seen it, hopefully you're subscribed. What we did is we partnered with some folks on Jim's team to look at the transition content that we're offering, and we're providing that via a LinkedIn newsletter. When we launched that, we always have really high hopes for what the result's going to be. I think those kind of exceeded what we expected. I think within the first week we had over 5,000 subscribers, and that continues to grow. And that's with zero promotion for us. We wanted to launch it to see what would happen, so we're super excited about the result. If you haven't seen it, please go look for it and share it again with your chapters, because I think it's a really great resource. Also, the newsletter. So hopefully you guys all get the newsletter, and hopefully you are all subscribed to the chapter and councils section of that newsletter. If you are not, please call us and we can help you in the interim until the new database gets up. We're happy to kind of get you on those lists. And lastly, because I know time is short, Tank kind of mentioned the AI and copyright issue. Again, this is not going away anytime soon. Rachel on my team is going to be doing a brief, I believe at 1:30, is that right? 1:30 to go over just some stuff you need to be aware of. Our role here is to help you, so we're also developing a couple other resources and a couple other things that we're going to be able to provide within the next month to help you with this. I think it's more really an awareness that this is out there and how you can protect the chapter. I think Joe mentioned it can get really expensive really fast. And the issue with a lot of this is legally they're correct when they come after. So we're here to help you and to provide the resources to protect you. So if you have any questions, and I know I've talked to several chapter and council members over the last few weeks on this, we're more than happy to answer any questions and give you some guidance on that. And with that, I will turn it over to Sarah.
Thank you, Pete.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Ferris. I'm the CIO here at MOAA. I've been here about 6 months, actually 6 months and 2 days, I think, at this point. I have spent the entirety of my career, just as a quick introduction, in IT as a consultant, supporting corporations, supporting nonprofit, and most recently supporting international governmental organizations. But I am thrilled to be back in the nonprofit sector, and I'm thrilled to be here working at MOAA. I am part of a team who is responsible for what I would say the stewardship of IT here at MOAA. Like membership, IT is no longer the purview of a bunch of people sitting in a closet, frantically working on computers. It's working with everybody. And so we are responsible for really making sure that we have the right strategy to really leverage IT at MOAA, as well as to make sure we have the right building blocks and solutions in place to help fulfill the mission. I am part of a fantastic team of professionals, 2 of whom are here, Chris and Errol. I think many of you guys have engaged with them over the course of this. They are always here supporting events like this. They are responsible for the infrastructure, all kind of the piping of IT, as well as desktops and a lot of different things. We have a team back at the office who support, the website and the chapter dues solution, and then the member database. So I just wanted to say again how thrilled I am to be here and how proud I am of the team that I get to work with every day. So I want to highlight two key things going on in the IT space right now that I think are of probably the most interest. The first of which General Kelly mentioned earlier, which is the member database. This is a years-long project that is not months away, not weeks away, but days away, knock on wood, from going live. It's a really exciting thing. It has taken a lot of hard work and planning to get to this point over the past couple of years, and we are both, I would say, nervous, but also really excited to see what's going to happen from here. As General Kelly said, it's going to be a journey. There's going to be areas where it's a little rockier than others, and we expect, as he said at the beginning, it will be tough, potentially, but we will get to the other side, and we will be focusing on getting a stable system, because this system really is going to be the core of our IT environment as we move forward, because members are the core of our business. So I hope you will keep your fingers crossed for us as we go into next week in this exciting time, and we look forward. We just ask for your patience and your cooperation as we move through this. The second thing is the chapter dues system, which I'm sure is near and dear to many people's hearts. We are in the process of we had sort of an unexpected, urgent need to change our processing platforms earlier this year. We are now at the point where we are moving that into production and hopefully going to be making that available to you in the coming days. We are, like I said, we are excited to get that back into production, and as we've gone through this process, we've realized we really want to continue to work with you to find what the right suite of solutions are to support the needs of the chapters out there. So I look forward to working with all of you moving forward. And finally, while those are just 2 examples of systems that we use, we have a lot of other things going on, whether it's the website, whether it's supporting the staff at MOAA, supporting events like this. And IT and the CIO organization, sorry, there's a bug here. IT and the IT organization is going to be really focused on figuring out how IT and technology can really maximize the value that we contribute to the MOAA mission. And so that's going to be our focus today, and that's going to be the focus as we move forward. So I wanted to say thank you, and I'll turn it back to Tank.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, well, thanks to all of you. Those great remarks, everything on point, things that we needed to hear. So now comes the fun part, So this is your opportunity, and we've got our first hand up. This is wonderful. So I think Allison is bringing a microphone to you, sir, and we'll take your question.
Good morning, Richard McPherson from Idaho.
Sir.
Surviving spouses. Are surviving spouses our wives, or do they have to pay to become members of MOAA?
Kathy, you want to take that? Or? Yep, thank you.
Surviving spouses are the widows or widowers of a military officer. And if the officer was a life member, the spouse will inherit that membership, so there would be no dues. However, surviving spouses can join in their own right if their spouse had not been a member of MOAA.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Nick Taylor, Pennsylvania Council of Chapters. Legal question, and I'll preface this with, I have no knowledge of the incident, Your Honor, so just a question. Regarding understand about the copyrights and taking stuff off the internet, my question is there any prohibition to using MOAA's trademarks or Never Stop Serving on our correspondence or letterhead or chapter newsletters or anything like that? Is that kind of like a given that we're allowed to do that?
Right. Part of the process of chartering a chapter is that authorizes the chapter to use our logo, our trademarks, and our name as part of their official correspondence and their official communications.
Thank you, sir.
Joe, can I just hop in? Just one caveat on that is making sure that we're using the registered trademark for this stuff, because I know that there are older logos and there's a trademark one that's out there, but this one that's up on the screen is the one that we would love you to use, which is a registered. So if you need that, please let us know and we can make sure that you get it. What's that? Oh, they're on the website apparently.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I learned something too.
Thanks, Pete. Sir, please, Bud.
Bud Cheney Weiss, I'm on the board and was on the staff, and the question is for Kathy, but maybe a little spillover for Dan or General Lynch. We were on the Hill yesterday. We encountered quite a number of military fellows, Armed Forces fellows. We encountered a 3-star Air Force general and his entourage of officers and enlisted. We didn't encounter a single member of MOAA. I realize that we will are not privy to your campaigns for active duty folks, but is there some prohibition or belief that folks working on the Hill can't be members of MOAA?
Well, I think we all know that they can be a member, and sometimes it might just be educating them that they can be members, because I know that sometimes currently serving think they can't get involved in the advocacy process, so I think it's educating them. Over the years, we've had different philosophies of what we do when we go up on the Hill. If we run into a non-member, do we want to focus on the issues at hand, or do we want to start pitching membership? So I always defer to the Director of Government Relations on that, and how we do that. I do like that idea.
I can add to this. So what happens many times when people listen to their bosses or some friend that says, you can't advocate while you're in uniform. In uniform, that's true. You don't put your uniform on and go out and go to a parade or go to something to recognize a politician or something like that. But when you're just yourselves, you want to call your member of Congress, nobody can tell you, regardless of what uniform you wear or never wear, no one can stop you from talking to your legislators. It's just like same thing when you're in the military. You are allowed to go talk to your commander. You're allowed to go to the IG. You're allowed to go to these things. So sometimes people think that MOAA, maybe it's our fault, we talk about advocacy quite a bit. Well, that's all they do is advocate. They're the ones that lobby. They're lobbyists, and I can't be a lobbyist if I'm in uniform. So that's why we get confused, and some people just think about the wrong things. But yes, they could join, and yes, they can call their members of Congress.
Gary Palmer from Maryland. I've been hearing about the copyright issue, about going through all our websites and the chapter council websites and the chapter websites and getting rid of all the old backup material that we have, including old newsletters and publications. Is that helpful at this point, or is it too late? That's why I asked it now, because I suspect it went through several people. We may talk about it later during the program, but it's a legal question, it's a technical question, it's a comm question.
Yeah, I would just answer it this way. I don't know, depending on what you have up there in your past postings and old websites. I know just talking to Sarah as we've been going through a lot of the MOAA websites and a lot of MOAA materials that's on the web, there is a lot that really does need to be cleaned up. The one thing I would caution you on is the law firms and the companies that are out there looking for people misusing copyrighted images have computer programs that allow them to search out the images. And you may not have the image itself on your website. You might just have a link to your newsletter, and the image is in the newsletter. It's never on the website. They can find it, and they can come after you for that. So I would just be very, very careful with what you have on the internet. So Pete, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, and I think just to clarify a little bit, if it's a link that your website is still digital, I think that's what we mean. Not necessarily on your website, but it's still a digital version. That's what they can scour. There is a way that can help, which is to put all of that stuff behind a sign-in. Right, so if you have a lot of old things, you could put that behind a member login, which would definitely help, because then, like, most of the bots can't get behind your login. But yeah, I mean, it's something to at least look at and consider, like, how much older stuff is it. And then maybe it's looking at also, as an organization, like what your archive strategy is. How long do you want or need that stuff up there? Because it may just be that you can just take it down as well.
Yeah, this is.
I'm sorry. Hey, Don, I just want to make one quick comment here to add to that. Pete and his team, his team looked at all of these Harris Communication Award packages that y'all sent in, 250 some of them, and we found a lot of pictures that are copyrighted on your stuff. So we're going to let you know that, so that you can go and get rid of that stuff. But I just want to make that comment because it's out there and it's more prevalent than you might think. So we'll let you know what we found. We're going to make that part of our feedback to you, but it's rather prevalent on websites and on newsletters. Don.
Yeah, Don Wolfinger from the Missouri Council of Chapters. This is for Kathy Parton. You talked about, we've got, I guess I've seen the booth at a couple association events. How do I get a copy of those kind of graphics and so forth? I've been to association events where I've had to create my own stuff. I think there's got to be a way of leveraging what we've put together at your level, because that's the information that we want to get out.
I think that's a great idea. Just have consistent messaging across everything that we do, whether it's at the chapter level, the national level. I'll take that back and talk to Tank, and we can figure out how we might be able to do that.
Yeah, it would be very helpful. Thank you. You know, Retiree Appreciation Day, National Guard Association. I've done these two in the last couple of months, and it would really be helpful because that helps explain all the things that MOAA does. And we most likely only hit maybe half of them when we're talking to people.
Thanks, Don.
Robert Baker with Colonel Billy Jones chapter out of Jackson, Mississippi. Listening to the panelists, the question that comes to me is on the copyright as well. When it comes to originality, if you're able to create something of your own for a chapter, is there some way we can get it proofed from MOAA saying that it's good to go, rather than trying to get something off the web or what have you, and then you utilize it, and then we caught into the situation here with copyright somebody's material. Do you have some examples or ideas along that line that would be helpful?
So just to clarify, are you asking for like things that you all write that you're would ask for us to review?
Yes.
Okay. Probably the immediate answer is no, but There are tools out there, and we can compile some of those and send them to you. So like a plagiarism software that you can run an article through to make sure that there's nothing that may be copyrighted. That would probably be helpful. Would that address your question?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we can put together some tools, and we can share that with Tank and his
That
team.
we can review and give you an idea that we're on the right path.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Linda Caldwell with the South Carolina Council. Isn't there a form that you can use to obtain permission to use a copyrighted either article or photo? I used to do this in the medical field a lot.
Wow, it's busy. Yes, you can ask whoever owns the article or the image, you can always email them and ask for permission to use it. And in my experience, groups like ours, oftentimes the answer is yes. But it is definitely safer to ask and have permission and hold on to that, because if you get any of these letters from any of these law firms that Joe mentioned, you'll need to be able to show that yes, we have permission to use the image. But yeah, oftentimes it's just a simple email to ask, hey, we want to use this. I would encourage you that if you do that, just tell them how and why you're going to use it. That makes that process a little faster.
Right, and then at the end of all of this, are you going to issue a directive so that that goes out to all the councils and chapters for each of these examples? Because, we don't want to piecemeal information out to them. It would be just really nice if you had a position paper.
An overall position paper on copyright use, you're saying?
Right, on all
yeah, I'll
this
kind of.
issue.
We can work with Tank's team to work on something. Yeah.
Okay. Lastly, I have a question about, and I don't know who would address this, but April is the month of the military child. And does MOAA have any kind of official position on that, or some kind of a kit that we could develop or use in our chapters to do activities with our Purple Star schools in our areas?
Who would like to take that? Sir.
This is Jerry Graham, and I'm the president of the Council of Virtual Chapters, and we have a wonderful virtual chapter number 6, which is dedicated to women in the service as well as military families. So I think we have a lot of interest in that, and I'd be happy to talk to you to see afterwards. Okay? It's a very good spirited opportunity for all of us.
Thank you.
Good morning, Bob Green from Iowa. So we're talking about recruiting and getting as members the younger generation. Cadets, midshipmen, they're very impressionable. When I was a plebe, I still use the same teeth brushing techniques. It goes with you your whole life. So my question is, you talked about service academies. All commissioning sources, OCS, ROTC, embedded in terms of their indoctrination, and then going one step further, getting it into the respective services, war colleges, staff colleges, respective services, naval education and training command. I mean, there's so many opportunities, and personally and professionally, and I'm not aware of this when I was a younger officer. Well, I still am, but should MOAA not be an obligation in terms of an obligatory responsibility for every officer to take care of their personnel and be knowledgeable, so this is self-perpetuating? Just looking at opportunities on expansion. I just want your feedback on that. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea. We do rely on the chapters on a lot of these other commissioning sources, so we've just gotten our toe dipped into working with the academies and the alumni associations there. We know that a lot of chapters are out there with ROTC programs. We do awards at some of the different schools, so we are getting MOAA's brand out there and letting them know. There is nobody yet who has said MOAA membership is mandatory, and I don't even think that's a legal option for us, but we certainly do work to get our mission out there so they understand what we do for them and how they can take care of their troops later. I like how you're thinking. I think you're right on track, but again, it's not something that we can mandate.
Thanks, Kathy. Yes, sir. Do you have a microphone?
Yeah, thank you very much. What I'm going to pass on is I'm merely the messenger here. I'm not being judgmental, but the advocacy and action on the Hill yesterday, I think I had an important message from a senior SASC staffer that is obviously a friend of MOAA. And he just said to me, and I'm Mike Slane from southeast New England, the smallest state, Rhode Island. And he said, I'm just surprised that MOAA would bring me a message, one of your 3 issues, TRICARE for Life, is a non-issue. We're all very supportive, and I understand why you have it here, just to keep it on the surface. But there are far more important things that I think that MOAA could be advocating than something that has no congressional issues. And he said, I'm a friend of MOAA, and I just think that they could have better used that time on 1/3 of their issues to bring something to the surface that actually has a congressional issue. So I'm merely passing that on. I don't have an opinion because there are probably good reasons for putting that in there. Thank you.
I'd gladly take that one. The fact that you're bringing a message and the fact that they talked about it, and I acknowledge that it wasn't important right now. There are other things we could be doing. There's probably 16 different facets of accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish. And so, yes, it's an easy one. There was no ask. Doesn't cost anybody a penny. We just want to make sure they're aware. Also, if we delivered the messages, and I believe most of them were delivered correctly, and that is, we're really just here to say thank you on this one, because Congress made this, and Congress has defended it, and Congress isn't the bad guy in this picture. The CBO has a job to do too. They're not the bad guys either. They just come up with, as long as I've been doing this, even before I came to MOAA, I always called it the book of stupid ideas, because this is where they changed the Social Security age. This is where they're going to change all these different things to try to find money. So that's real. It's a real threat. And guess what's going to happen this coming December? They're going to put out another book. They're going to put out the other options. So I think it was really good to make sure that, and I know you're the delivery, but we talked about this at length, and we talked with the board, and the board approved the topics, and it was a nice get off the stage thing to say thank you. So, but thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
And we probably know that staffer. And he knows us.
Hi, Mike Fricano. Oh, I'm sorry. Who's talking? Me?
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, I'll do it.
Go first, yeah.
Mike Fricano from Hawaii. Aloha, everybody, and thank you for what you do for us. I just want to point out that we are the poster child for the copyright issue, and if anybody would like to talk to me about what it was like from our perspective, happy to do that. But my question is something else, and it's probably for Pete. Our chapter president recently read, or more likely heard on a webinar, reference to something called a white label newsletter that I'm completely unfamiliar with, but sounds like something that our chapter might be interested in. And is there any more information you can share on that?
Yeah, that's actually mine. I'll take that one. Pete, give you a break here for a second. Hey, by the way, Mike, are you due for a visit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Who wants to come to Hawaii?
Don't even raise your hand. We don't need any volunteers. We're good. Got it covered in-house. Hey, Michael, that white label newsletter is something that we provide every month. Actually, Joey works on it, right, Joey? That's your project. So every month we take 3 or 4 of the big stories out of either a magazine or our newsletters, and then we put it into a format that's online, available for you to download and edit. And you can make it your own. So you can take some of the major issues and topics and stories coming out of the Military Officer magazine and our newsletters, and then add to that, make it put your own chapter name on it, add whatever you want to it. We developed this so that chapters that maybe don't have the resource to develop their own, more elaborate newsletter have the opportunity to have something. And it's very popular. I think a lot of chapters make use of it, but that's what we call the white label newsletter. That helpful?
How do we find that? I've never heard of it and want access to it.
Well, I need to come to, when I come out to see you, we'll talk about this in great detail. But it is online. It's on our website. It's fairly easy to find. Talk to Joey back there when we take a break, and he'll show you exactly. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Mary Kay Getter from the Wyoming-Colorado border chapter. My comment/question has to do with the membership and maybe a suggestion of thinking a little bit more inclusively. Not all military officers are married. Some of them don't want to be. They don't all have children. I think a lot of our products are geared toward a very stereotypical MOAA member that we may be losing. I think when I meet with our company grade officers group at F.E. Warren Air Force Base, most of them aren't even married, or they don't have children. They could care less about Arlington Cemetery or estate planning or caregiving. And all that's passionate to the vast majority of us in this room. And I'm wondering, can you come up with a publication maybe about what have we done for military pay historically? Where are we going? Because every single solitary serving officer cares about pay. And the other thing, I'll just, when it comes to spouses, just keep pushing that inclusivity and watch the gender reference that it's all wives, because it's a husband for me, and he's very sensitive to that. And I've noticed some of the surviving spouses that we have recruited recently, they're not all happy about the experience they had in the military. There's bitterness, there's resentment, and it's very hard. I can get them to join, that's it. They really don't want anything to do with us. And I don't know how to crack that barrier. So, and then the last thing is, have you targeted AMSIS, the Association of Military Surgeons of the United States? They're all officers. And that's a group I used to belong to, and I think they would be a very fertile ground for MOAA.
They are, for certain. They have an annual conference every year. MOAA is there. We talk to a lot of current members, but very target-rich environment for us, for sure.
I'll go ahead and mention the pay. It's a good point. We do a lot of work on compensation. We make it, when we print, that's like the number one thing we start with, but it can easily get drowned out by some of the other issues, that go more broadly to families and stuff like that, spouse employment, all very important to those people. Let me just tell you a little bit about the compensation of what we've done. Back about 1990, Congress realized recruiting was terrible, retention was terrible, and they looked at the pay mechanisms, the employment cost index, and they said, man, we've got to really make up a lot of ground. I mean, we're talking 5 and 10 and 10% pay raises for a few years. And then they got that leveled off, and that was perfect for about 7 years. Then in 2014, 15, and 16, those 3 years, pay raises were decremented. And the president has the authority to do it, but he has to tell Congress why. And he did, and the message was, there's the economic uncertainty and crisis in certain things like sequestrations and all those other things. So it was a legitimate use of the presidential power to decrement the pay raise. After 2016, this came up still again, that was like, let's go there a couple of more times, and we started getting at this as MOAA and with the military coalition, and since 2016, every single pay raise has been pegged to the ECI with no decrement. And we're the ones that made sure that the senior leaders in the DOD, and at the time, this was the Secretary of Defense, Jim Mattis, was a former 4-star. He's the one that said, we don't need to pay him more because an 18-year-old doesn't know the difference between his starting pay. And that was his narrative, and we made that fixed, and so ever since then, and BAH is a perfect example. BAH is also for single people. So when we're trying to get the 100% back for BAH, the restoration, that should be something a regular military officer who's not married would care about that. But thank you for bringing up that recognition. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir, please.
Mike Kelly from Kansas, and I can tell you that Mike Furcano is the program guy for the Aloha chapter, and if you've got a great war story and you want to come out to Honolulu and, you know, go to his chapter meeting, he'll be happy to put you on the agenda. My question has to do with other opportunities for us to partner. Civil Air Patrol is part of the United States Air Force. Their officers are not commissioned officers, but they wear rank that looks like ours, and they definitely are important in aerospace education. They do non-combat things, and they teach young people. So it's a lot like scouting, but focused on aerospace. And so I'm wondering if we could partner with the Civil Air Patrol, and maybe the board of directors would want to discuss the idea of granting membership eligibility to Civil Air Patrol officers. And they are part of the United States Air Force, but they are not commissioned officers. The other group I'd like us to consider partnering with is the National Guard Association. We are having, our state, we are trying to reach out to all our National Guard officers, and like a friend over here just mentioned, he goes to National Guard state meetings. We've done that too, but maybe we just ought to have a reciprocal membership with them. I know that last year I got a reciprocal membership for the Association of United States Army, and yeah, I applied to West Point, but didn't get in. So that's as close as I ever got to the Army. I was in the Air Force, but somehow I'm a member of the Association of the United States Army now. So maybe there's some reciprocal membership ideas that we could pursue that don't take us far away from where we are now, but does open up our aperture a little bit. Thanks.
Well, that's a good, you make a couple of very good points there, but the rules that we have to follow as a 501c19 Veterans Association require us to have 75% of our members who are current or former members of the armed forces. And not the Civil Air Patrol in and of itself doesn't qualify for that. So it doesn't. It's outside of our field of membership. Most National Guard officers, I think, fall well within our field of membership, but not everyone. So we have to be very careful of those. One issue that comes up from time to time is, why don't we open up our membership to spouses? Why just surviving spouses? Why not spouses? And the reason for that is 75% of our members have to be current or former members of the armed forces. If we opened it up to spouses being full-fledged members, we couldn't maintain the 75% requirement we're supposed to have. So we can't do that. But instead of that, what we do is we give the same benefits of membership to spouses, even though they don't qualify to be members themselves. But they get all the benefits, access to the benefits that we have as spouses. Kathy, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Just in reference to the National Guard, that is another community we try to be very active in. We go to their annual conference every year, and then we do have a presence at some of the state meetings, and I know that some chapters are very involved in that as well. In terms of reciprocal relationships, I think AUSA, they may be a C3, so they don't have the same parameters that Joe is talking about in some of these partnerships that they have. But I do like how you're thinking too. So that's.
I think we're over here. Somebody, who's next? Yes, sir, please, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see what was happening, but I think you're.
Was there somebody else, or was it me right now? Good morning. Matt Springer from Mid-Hudson, New York chapter, president of the chapter. I've also been tasked by my council president to be the recruiting and retention officer for the state of New York. And yes, thank you. Anyway, question deals more with recruiting and retention, I guess advertising. And I brought this up once before, and I I just want to follow up with the question. I know we're trying to recruit newer or younger members to MOAA. And one of the things that I noticed yesterday walking around the halls of Longworthy, that the younger people had their noses stuck in these things. I did too, but this is their newest form of communication. My question is apps for MOAA. I know I asked this question once before. Are you in the process of developing an app for MOAA or not? And I thought that just might be an easier way for them to tap on their phone, get into the website. I know I'm on LinkedIn. I follow MOAA, Facebook as well. I'm part of the younger generation. I guess I'm under 60, so I'm part of the younger generation. So I had that going for me. But I was just wondering if MOAA was developing any type of an app for the younger generation, because I know they'll ask about it, and that's one of the ways, a tool we can use to get them more involved with MOAA. So that's my question. Thank you.
No, thanks for your question. Yes, so MOAA looked at an app company, and we did a lot of internal review, discussion, all of that. There were a couple things that came out of that, just to share everything. The research on whether or not we should have an app as an organization was done by an app development company. Yeah, so guess what the result was, right? Yeah, so it kind of, that in and of itself was an issue. One of the things that we're focusing on as an organization is more the mobile responsiveness of existing outlets. The thing with the app, and we talked to a lot of other associations as well, there are some challenges in membership-based organization with app usage and continued app usage. And the issue that we have as an organization with this right now is that with apps, you can't really test and then see whether or not there's viability there. It's really hard to do that. What you end up doing is dumping a lot of money into the app development and then seeing whether or not it works. And from our research and discussion with a lot of other military-based organizations as well as other non-military with apps and associations, is it hasn't been that very effective for them. So because of that, what we're looking at is more, how do we look at the mobile responsiveness of things that we have? So things like mobile responsiveness of the website, integration of the website, and single sign-on things for like our Legislative Action Center. So when Sarah mentioned a lot of other projects, these are some of the projects that are on her long list of things to do, is really looking at how do we make it easier for our members to access and get to that stuff. So it's kind of a long answer to your question, but we definitely have looked into it, and right now that's not really on the development. One thing that we are looking at is related to the People Conference, is whether or not we would have an app, and more than likely an event like that, we would have an app to support that event. So there may be some potential to kind of springboard off of that, but as of right now, we kind of put the kibosh on that.
I'll just add one thing. Oh, sorry, just to add to some of that, one of the things that we're doing as we make IT investments is we're really leveraging tools that are available in the market, and a lot of times those tools come with apps. So what we can, it gives us the ability to have an app presence for a specific, a specific function without us having to make the investments that Pete was looking for. So I think we can reach out in different ways, and we can get more of a presence in that app space without having to really commit to such a significant investment in that.
And I would just add that from a marketing perspective, we are doing programmatic ad buys that places MOAA's ads in different apps where we think officers are. So if you look and act like an officer online, we're trying to make sure we show up there. So that's independent of us having our own app, just for a very different purpose.
Pierre Lewis with the Florida Councils of Chapters. And I'm glad the gentleman mentioned that, because that's kind of a segue to some of the comments and point that is. And I'm one of those younger guys, and from that data generation, I was an IT guy. So a lot of my points are kind of the points exactly what you said. I've always said that people have their phones with them more than their wives or husbands with them all the time. And now I just taken over as the legislative. I'm only 3 months into it, but I mentioned to Steve on that heat map, one of the things I always wondered is why at this time we don't have, or you're not using the SMS. You know, your VA uses it all the time. Somebody gets an appointment, they say, press a 1 to confirm, press a no that's here. And I would think that the priority of effort, when you get a particular bill, if you want to get it signed, you can send an SMS message to say, listen, you can sign for the Richard Starr Act, and then those 360,000, I guarantee those numbers will go up tremendously. Because we tried that just recently, and we were talking about the heat map, we sent the message out, and all of a sudden it went from, what, 704 to almost 1,400 in a matter of just a couple of hours. And I would think that somewhere along the line we were thinking about investing in. I don't know exactly who can answer all this takes, so I'm gonna kind of just put it out there and let you direct on that. That was one thing to look about the closing that gap with the SMS. And then the Instagram was another thing too. I always look at the data analytics that are out there. I see MOAA's official that's out there, but I look at the data analytics there, and it's very low as far as that. People subscribe, but then when you look at the interactivity, the data analysis, it's usually like only 2 followers, 5 followers. Even on the website, it's only 2,300 on the YouTube. But then when you look at the likes that's there, it's only 1 like or 2 likes. So it's out there, but the interactivity, somehow or another, that's being substantiated. So I know that ways that I've seen from there is that the influencers count. We're looking at it from the top down, but it's the end user side. Sometimes when we've had those, when I was running the public housing and ran the computer centers, we had an influencer, he had something called Leave Drunk. Sounds funny to say. However, he posted this thing in 1 day. And in less than a day, there were 2,000 college students that showed up for Leave Drunk. Now, it sounds funny, but what the young man had was, number one, he had identity that was out there. Number 2, he had influence. People believed in whatever he was saying. So my point is this, is that what influencers do we have that's sort of out there that we've looked at the analytics that are actually military people, I see them all the time, that's out there, that they have their own followings. When they have their own followings, go to where they are. And most of these, like my niece, she gets paid to do posts. In her head 5 different ways. However, my point is that those influencers that are out there, maybe we could tag on to them and work with them so they can push our product that's out there because they've already got a following that's there. And from there, that's the other point of it. And then the other point is the fact that since I just took over as the legislative chair, I noticed that sometimes I'll have to go to congress.gov to pull down how many co-sponsors, where I've done it on my phone. I say, listen, how many co-sponsors on HR 1282? I get it right on my watch. I get it right there. I put it right here on my co-pilot, and the information pulls out with whoever the Florida delegates, it's right there. So I know from an old data processing guy, an IT guy, it's data. It's data, and the numbers out there. Now aggregating it together that we can put in there, because in a matter of 2 minutes, when Steve asked me a question, it took 2 minutes for me to go out to the ChatGPT and pull it in. For now, people are skeptical about AI and stuff like that, but it's not going away. It's going from carrier pigeon work to where we are today. So I want to talk about AI. And the other thing, the last thing, I guess, and I'll close with this for my notes, is, royalty-free in digital advertising and that. But I'm throwing that out there because I'm an IT guy. But the SMS is really something that I really think that somehow we can look at that. I know the gentleman, he already talked about apps. I had wrote that on my notes too. But by having an app that's there, and I know you said you talked to the companies that are there. They're selling stuff, but however, an app is different, obviously, than just having a app that's there and just a website that's there. They can receive notifications on those issues as they occur. And after you aggregate and scrub that data that's there, you can get that real-time data, because we're in a data-centered visual world that's out there. And I think we've got to make that sort of migration. I don't see that happening right now. So those are my points right there.
Can you start over? I'm kidding.
My point is, it's data, ladies and gentlemen. It's like from the carrier pigeons to the point of where we have right now. That day, I'm telling you, when they ask me for a bill, I go HR 1282, how many Florida co-sponsors? And in a matter of seconds, I can get that full list right there. But the fact that I got to go to 15 different websites to aggregate it down and then put it in a newsletter when I know that data is out there. Data are just tables. It's one table pointing here to this list. That's all it is. It's a cup here, but it's still the same data. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd have to bring this out for one of our volunteer leaders. Okay, I think some of it you'll hear later on, but I think let's take what I think might be the easiest one to talk to, the analytics on Instagram. Is that something that we can?
Can I address a
talk-
couple
yes, please.
of the options?
Sure.
And then somebody else can talk about it. So first on SMS, we have been dipping our toe into that. We've tried a couple of tests on the membership side of the house. We haven't seen the data to really support that, but it might be because we're trying it with renewals and membership. I think you have a good point about the Legislative Action Center. I think we've got to build that repository of numbers that we have permission to text. So I know that's something that's on our radar and that we're thinking about. Influencers, this past year, we had a really great campaign with influencers. We had tried it a couple of years ago and didn't get the traction we wanted. This past year, we found 12 to 15 influencers in the military community to get our message out because people matter. And it was a 2-week span. Over that 2-week span, we had almost 500,000 impressions out there. And then we looked at all the activity and engagement from there, all about brand awareness. So really happy with those results. And as a side added bonus, we brought in some paid members as well down the road. So we're looking to do that again in the coming months. And the focus is really going to be on basic housing allowance. So I think that'll get a lot of traction, really looking at the currently serving for this target audience. And the place that we're doing that is Instagram. And I think that, you know, they get the message out to their audiences, they learn about MOAA, and it trickles back to us. So good point about the influencers. I would say that if any of you have suggestions for influencers we should be working with, please let us know. We're out there vetting a lot of different influencers, and we want to make sure we get the right ones.
So I'll just add a couple of comments, and I'll dovetail a little bit. Free influencers would also be really appreciated. I think now influencer is a job title. So a lot of, when you see influencers, those are paid. So they're not usually free. So that's something that I know Kathy and her team are well aware of. But yeah, if there's anybody out there that's willing to help us and promote and get our word out there, that's an influencer that's willing to do that gratis, that would be much appreciated. You do make a good point. I mean, Instagram is our lowest followed social media channel across the organization. One of the things that my team is focusing on is really looking at the engagement piece around social media. One of the challenges that we have, and I think it's out there for everybody, is the data, how it's aggregated, how it's counting, and how it changes. So YouTube's a perfect example for us, which is when we look at YouTube, the number of people that are following and subscribed to our channel is relatively low given the size of the organization. But when we post those videos or snippets of those videos on other channels, they don't count in our YouTube analytics. Those are, if they play within, so for example, Instagram, if it plays within Instagram, that doesn't count on YouTube. So what we have to do is aggregate the data sources. I think this is one point that you were making. The challenge now is that the data isn't necessarily in one spot. You have to aggregate it and pull it out of all these different things to really get what the reach was to some of those videos. So that is a challenge for us to do that. But one of the focuses, so one thing is we're bringing on a social media manager at the organization. We've actually elevated that position within the organization. And the two areas that we're going to focus on is growing followers. Now, I'm not a big fan of that as a success metric for the organization because those metrics rarely go down. So when you say increase followers, it's an easy metric, I think, to follow. So we need to think differently about it. So what we're doing is we're going to be focusing on engagement. So to your point, which is really how many people are sharing, reposting, those kind of things are really what's going to drive the success metric for what we're working on. And then, what else was that? I think those were the 3 points, and I know Sarah had some point to make on AI.
And just, you mentioned about the use of technology, and I think you're absolutely right. Technology is a key tool. That's when I was talking about IT, is we're stewarding it. We are not necessarily the gatekeepers of technology anymore. There's so much that all of us can do almost at our fingertips with technology. But as we make investments from a MOAA perspective, we want to look at it and be deliberate about how, when, and how we use that technology. What's the impact it's going to have? What's the projected value that it's going to have? How can we use that technology safely? You know, one of the big challenges is it is so accessible. How do we make sure that we know what we're doing and we're going in and leveraging that technology with our eyes wide open? But as you said, the technology isn't going anywhere, and we definitely don't want to be left behind, but we do want to be very intentional about when and how we leverage that technology to make sure we're not spending money that we don't need to be spending and that we're not putting our data assets at risk. But you're absolutely right. Data and technology is one of the key, the most important strategic tools that we're going to have moving into the next 10 years, and we need to be open to all of the things that are out there, just doing it carefully and cautiously.
So Pierre, I can address a couple things. First of all, it's obvious you are a man with a particular set of skills. But I want to let you know that we have Quorum, which is an awesome platform, but it's at the headquarters. We don't have a version of it where everybody can just do it, just what you're talking about. We aggregate, we report, we have data, we have heat maps, we have all that stuff. We can get some of it fairly quickly, but we don't have that out there for everybody because we'd have to pay an enormous amount of money for that. We're limited on numbers of registered users. So that's just one of the things. So we're kind of in the ballpark where you're at right now, and we're going to get better when we get more numbers. And we get more numbers, maybe we could spend more money and get a little bit more for those people who are legislative leaders out in the chapters and councils. But we're talking tens and 20s of thousands of dollars to make those adjustments. And then to pay for, like what Sarah was telling us, is it really worth the money to have 8 people happy and we spend $100,000 extra to get those 8 people to get the access that they want? I don't mind telling you, because we're an open organization, $75,000 a year for what we do right now with Quorum. And that's a pretty good price, but it's actually something that's really limited. Perfect. If you could do me a favor, Dan M at MOAA.org, it's easy. You know me. I know you. So send me a note so our team can look at it, with all the information in front of us, that what you're talking about. Because we've canned reports, those are things we probably can do more likely. but live and updates would have to be another manual update. You know, it's not going to be energized on its own. It has to be energized when we do it. So, but please send me the notes, and we'll talk about it as a team and see what we can get back to you, and then share with everybody else. If we have an avenue that can make it easier for people, we'll certainly take that avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Pierre, thank you for all that. Dan, thank you. I think we are approaching end state here, so we've got a couple minutes left. We'll take 2 more questions, and then I'm going to have to ask you any additional questions you have. Let's bring them one-on-one. We have 2 folks with microphones in their hands. Link, I saw your hand up. Let me see if I can get to a third, but please go ahead. First,
Thanks.
Nick, go ahead.
Thanks, Hank. Yeah, again, Nick Taylor from Pennsylvania. A question for Kathy about membership. It was stated earlier that one of the focused goals is to increase MOAA's paid membership. My question is a 2-part question. Number 1 is, has MOAA done an analysis of how many basic memberships transfer over to a paid membership? And number 2, has MOAA given any thought to maybe taking that basic membership and maybe reducing the cost to, let's say, $20, calling it like an introductory membership, and then with the idea of after that first year for someone who has never been a member, their first time member, then transition over to that paid membership?
We've done a lot of things over the years to land where we are at with the basic membership, and there have been discussions about the value of basic membership to the organizations. We have this pipeline because we have basic membership. I look at basic membership, glorified prospects for that premium and life membership. That's a list we can't get anywhere else. After 9/11, DOD stopped sending out the lists, so we had to cultivate our own. So that's really what basic membership is for us, growing that prospect list. I wrote a bunch of things down as you were talking. So putting a price tag on that, we've explored that, but it's still I don't think that money is the issue when it comes to paid membership. So whether that's $3, $20, $62, that's not the issue. That is still trying to get somebody to pull out their credit card, a lot of times when they don't know a lot about us yet. So basic membership gives us that opportunity to cultivate them, have that regular ongoing communication with them. If we were to put a price tag on it, you would see that number fall significantly.
Thank you, ma'am. Just out of curiosity, again, any percentage of how many people? Is it 50%, 70%, 30%?
I wish it was that high.
Okay.
What we know is that it is about 12% of basic members. If you look at the year that they join, over time, 12% become paid members. We don't have a really firm handle on exactly how long that time is. Initially, it was within 3 years they got to that 12%. Now it's a little bit longer, and we're still trying to get a handle on it, but we do know that they're getting up into that 12% range.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got one more microphone in hand. Yes, ma'am, please. Yep, go ahead.
What I was going to say earlier makes any sense now because there's all the conversation, but I know some of our chapters in California, I'm the council president, are using Facebook, and some of it has been fairly successful, and it has its problems too. I'm not an IT specialist, but I understand that. I was a nurse. But also, we've had troubles with our council website because someone who knows more than I did, arranged this and everything. We found out within 2 years that it was sold off to some other countries, and we didn't have much power on that. But our treasurer, he's the IT guy for us in our council, and flushed all this out and looked at it. So for right now, we're just taking a break because we've got to get better on how to do that. It's good to have a website, obviously, and we'd like to do that. And some of the chapters have wanted to do that too, but it's very expensive, as you guys talk about up there. It's really expensive. So, I'm kind of in the middle of the road. I mean, I'm obviously over 60, but I don't want to leave those people behind. And that still participate and want to be involved. And I know we have a new group to grow up, but there's some kind of process in there somewhere where it's a, you know, a happy medium for folks. So they just, I have to be an IT expert to do anything with MOAA or find out anything and, you know, whatever. I mean, it's just, this is from a feeling sense of stuff. And we're still a group that love to talk and love to get together. We were in the military, and I, you know, I don't want that to replace. So suddenly we're just on the phones or whatever, you know, communicating and sharing with each other all the time. You know, I don't know if this makes total sense, but it's kind of what I was thinking and feeling as we were talking about some of this.
Thank you, Pam.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna cut it off here. I think we have food out there that's getting cold. We have an hour for lunch, so I love the enthusiasm. I appreciate all the hands I saw go up. If there's a question, these folks are gonna be around. They're probably at least through lunch, so just grab them and ask your question. I'm sure they'll be fine with that. Or if you wanna send me frank.m@moa.org, send me your question. I'll forward it and we'll get you answers back. But we're gonna have to cut it off there, and I apologize for that. So next lunch,